Alright, we got a lot to go through this week, so let's get started. First off, the Eagles are releasing two of their receivers, Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson was released on Monday morning. They had said on Friday they were going to release him. It only happened on Monday. And they said that they were releasing Alshon Jeffrey, who they've tried to get rid of for the last 2 years in trades, and they just haven't been able to do it. Deshaun Jackson one makes sense. He hasn't played 10 games in 2 years. He played 5 games last year, or not this previous season. He played, I think, 5 games. The year before, he played, I think, 3. So he only played about 8 games. So it makes sense. The Alshon Jeffrey one's a little more comprehensive. It's because he's older. He's not. He wasn't what he once was. He looks like a shell of himself. It just. It doesn't. It didn't work. He got banged up early. He only caught his first touchdown pass in like week 11 by Jalen Hurts. So it just didn't work out. But two more players that are leaving differently, they're retiring, is Anthony Costanzo and Mikey Potty. Mikey Potty is the guard for the Seattle Seahawks. He is retiring after 11 years. I think, and I believe he still thought he had football left in him. I just don't think his health really allowed it. So I think that's where he had to pull the plug on it. Where Anthony Costanzo played his whole career in Indianapolis as a guard that moved to tackle. That's a big void that the Colts are going to have to fill. But another one is another point is it's today until March 9th is the franchise tag window is opening. Basically, within this time frame, you can franchise tag anybody, whoever you want. That is not going to be on the team because you can't get a contract done as of yet, or you're not going to. So this would be like teams like the Lions if they can try and keep Kenny Galladay, the Cowboys if they want to keep Dak Prescott, who we'll get to in a minute, and a lot more other teams like the Bears if they can keep Allen Robinson, and so on and so forth. But some sad news in this story was Mike Tomlin, the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, has contracted and was diagnosed with COVID-19. Now, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy because Mike Tomlin was always respectful as a coach. To the media, to his players, he's known as a player's coach, sometimes to his detriment, but he's always been a phenomenal coach. I hope, as well as I think everyone should hope, that he gets well soon and that we're all pulling for him. Hopefully he makes a quick recovery. He says he's in good spirits, so we'll see you back soon on that football field. But one of the last stories is that Michael Pittman is not giving up his number 11 to Carson Wentz. This happens before. This actually almost happened to Tom Brady last year. Goodwin for the, Godwin, who plays for the Tampa Bay Bucks, wore number 12. When Brady came, Brady was like, I might not wear number 12, I might wear number 7. Which was interesting to me. But Godwin just gave him his number and he changed to 14. But usually this goes in a multitude of ways. Either you don't give him the number, like Michael Pittman is doing, which he's getting backlash from A.J. Brown. Or you give him the number and you change, like Chris Godwin. Or they buy the number. So if Carson was like, hey, I'll give you $2.5 million for it, I would do it, but I don't know if Michael Pittman would do it. The next one is Alvin Kamara told Drew Brees to take his time on think about his retirement because it is a long decision and it's a very time orderly decision and you shouldn't rush it. And Alvin Kamara, an actual quote as I have right here is, "Take your time, think it over. If you don't want it, okay," which is a very mature, veteran type of way of thinking. And I think Drew Brees, if he does come back, it's going to be interesting because his wife came out and said it wasn't just the rib injuries and the lung injury that he had. He had a torn plantar fascia, a torn rotator cuff, along with it, which explains the reason why he couldn't throw the ball. So if he wants to, I give it a go, but he's already has a job after football to work for NBC. So, but if he does decide to come back, yay, great, one more year before we have to see one of the greatest quarterbacks, a Hall of Famer, now having to retire, and that will be a sad moment. Speaking of a team that has to make a decision, the Cowboys and Dak Prescott have reopened contract talks. This does not mean that they have a contract set in stone. This means that they are going to try and figure out a contract because time is ticking. They got to make a decision. If the Cowboys do this, this will be astronomical because it will give people like ESPN a hard time to think about what's going to happen now and all this stuff, which we'll get to ESPN in a minute. But also ESPN said that the Cowboys were not close on a deal. Not the case. They're just talking right now about it. As we speak, they're in conversation. ESPN though also got into trouble with the NFL because the NFL wanted Monday Night Football to be also on ABC, a broadcasting station, and ESPN said no because when the NFL put them on ESPN, they put it on a cable station and it's not making the NFL as much money as they want. And ESPN can't figure out who is going to broadcast the games. It's ridiculous. It's all over the place. You haven't had a great commentating duo since Mike Tirico and John Gruden. It's been so long. But that's neither here nor there. The NFL, though, I think is eventually going to get its way, as they're already trying to put a 17-game season, and they're on their steps to do that for the 2021 campaign, which would be awesome. Would be awesome because I think that the teams want more football. I think we just have to figure out a way of doing it. That would maybe shrink the preseason down a little bit, but we saw what happened this year with no preseason. It was a little rough in the beginning, and then it started to get going. But our final story of the day, David Irving said he did not like working for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, working is meant in two ways in this. David Irving, and you actually can listen to Mike Fisher, who had a story about this yesterday. He said the reason why the Cowboys did not bring back David Irving, because David Irving's 6'7", 290, freak of nature, basically. However, he was not brought back because he didn't want to put the work in. He wanted to play on Sunday. He said, "Oh, I could just lie in bed and play football," which is fine, but you gotta put the work in. That would be like if I was in construction and we're trying to make a house and I don't show up until the house is already done, and then say, "Oh, I did this." No, I didn't do anything. Same thing with David Irving. Yes, your talent is good, but if you don't work on it, it's not going to change anything. He didn't want to put the work in, but one day he was in practice, and I believe this was either week 3 or week 7 that they were practicing for. He got injured, sprained his ankle, but everyone thought, oh, he's faking this injury because he doesn't like practicing. He got carted off. He had an ankle sprain. That's about a month injury, depending. It's always very dependable. Depending on your height, weight, it fluctuates. By week 12, Jerry Jones called the trainer. He's like, why is David Irving not here? And the trainer was like, well, and Jerry was like, is the injury that bad? And he's like, no, the injury, we haven't checked it because he hasn't come, but the injury, at least to our knowledge, would be already healed. But he hasn't come, so we don't know how far along he is. Well, he's like, well, call him up. Well, it's not that easy. He doesn't like coming to practice. So Jerry Jones is like, try and get him over here. And he's like, okay. So they call David Irving up, and they're like, David, Jerry Jones wants you to come here and practice with no one here. Just practice, because we want to see if you can lift weights. We want to see if you can do sprints. We want to see if we need to get some therapy on that ankle. And he's like, okay. He came, and he couldn't even do wind sprints. That was the problem. That's when the Cowboys knew it's it. It's over. We can't put a guy who's not fully committed on the football field because it's not going to work. We only put a guy, and I have a saying that I say to myself sometimes. I'd rather have a guy who's not as talented but puts the work in compared to a guy who is ultra talented and does not put the work in. But what do you guys think? Is my take on David Irving too harsh, and what should the contract be for Dak Prescott? You decide.